Okay, we are now on our Philippine-China focus segment, and we talk about China-Philippine issues in close, give it close scrutiny.
Yes.
But you sent me an editorial of the Washington Post, which I will read parts
I was
of now.
very disturbed, yes.
Yeah. Before that, I said,
Yes.
during when we were off the air, you're talking about good neighbors. What about
Yes.
good neighbors?
There's a very famous ancient Asian saying that good neighbors are more important than very far away relatives.
Why? For example, in
because
practice?
If you're in the house, you have a relative who has a heart attack, if there's a fire in your house, the most important people are the neighbors. They will go to your rescue, they will help you out, every little thing, big or small things. But your far away uncle, very hard to talk to them,
If they're
to
your
get
uncle,
their help.
you're
If you're really close to them, even if you're close to them, it's so far. So in our reality in the Philippines, we have to be close to our ASEAN, China, Korea, Taiwan, all our Asian neighbors.
I think-
we should not imagine our former colonizers will
Yes.
be still taking care of us.
Yeah. Well, they're called Uncle Sam, but they're
Yes.
not real uncles.
They have to take care of themselves first.
Now, your president, I recall, in
I'm
some
very
of his,
optimistic.
in his campaign speeches says
Yes.
he would be very happy to have China install
Yes.
train lines in the Philippines.
I think President Duterte, the new one, is very smart. I think he reads a lot of news that in Indonesia, in Thailand, and other countries, they already got high-speed trains from China. And we're maybe the last country in Southeast Asia.
I think I read on one news item about these trains
Yes.
from China that could cut, let's say, the travel time from Manila to Clark down to 30 minutes, for example.
No need for Clark. Just from here to Ilocos, I think we could have a train for 2-3 hours.
Instead of the, how many hours now to travel to Ilocos?
10 to 12 hours by car
Yes.
going to Ilocos.
Well, there was the North Rail, you recall,
Yes, yes.
during the time of the Venetia and so on.
I think the problem with that is it got marred into politics.
Yeah, because everything was set.
Yes, yes.
They were already buying properties along the route so that it can be cleared.
The North Rail reminds me of the Bataan nuclear power plant. It's another mothballed project.
Yeah, and well, some would say that there was interference again to get it
Yes.
aborted. You know?
We have lost a lot of opportunity
Yeah.
there.
So while the new and incoming president had good words to say about China,
Yes.
this is what Washington Post said. In the Philippines, a dangerous strong man. And why? Why do they say it? Well, in parts of this editorial, it said, Mr. Duterte could also undermine U.S. efforts to deter China's attempts to enforce its far-reaching territorial claims. Mr. Aquino rightly refused to negotiate bilaterally with Beijing over the Scarborough Shoal, instead bringing a case before a UN tribunal while concluding a pact that will allow the U.S. to use 5 Philippine bases, which is now more than 5. No? The two countries recently began conducting joint sea and air patrols.
I think this editorial is very unfair and very biased towards our new president. I think all countries, all media should first give the new president a chance to prove himself.
Yeah.
He's not even started yet. They're already judging.
Yes, I think they're trying to tie his hands. Huh?
They're trying to pressure him. I think the best thing for the president is to have a win-win situation.
Okay, I'll continue with
Yes,
the report. Mr. Duterte, the Washington Post editorial said,
Yes.
has expressed doubts about the alliance with Washington and hinted that he is ready to strike a deal with China. He even said he would set aside the maritime dispute in exchange for Chinese construction of a rail line in Mindanao. No doubt the regime of Xi Jinping would happily agree. Why? What's wrong with the railway
Yes.
in the Philippines?
And the good thing about suspending the dispute, it doesn't mean he ended the Philippine claim.
Yeah.
It just means that we can resolve it like for the next 50 years
Yeah, but
or
you
100
know,
years.
never mind. If the Americans are willing to put up the train lines here, they
Too
don't even
expensive.
offer that.
They don't build trains anymore.
They prefer to give Second World War vintage cutters, warships, and so on. How will that help our nation and our people? How will that help Mindanao?
Yes. I agree with you, Mr. Laurel. I think in the Philippines, what we should be like Singapore, like Thailand, Indonesia, and Malaysia, all our neighbors. Good friends with China, remain as friends with the U.S., and let all of them compete for our friendship.
Well, even Vietnam.
Yes.
Vietnam has a very militant rhetoric
Yes.
with regards to China, but
But
they
very
launched-
smart.
Very smart.
Not only a friend of China, not only a friend of the U.S., these Vietnamese, they're also a friend of the Russians.
Russians,
We're
yeah.
not even friends of the Russians anymore.
Yes, we don't have communication
And Iran.
with Russia.
Yes, I think the smartest move, I hope, for our very good new president is for him to have a balanced foreign policy.
Yes, yes. Well, we know that pressure will be brought upon him.
Yes,
And
but
in fact, the pressure seems to be starting and that is being forced by so-called advisors to talk
Yes.
about multilateralism in this. I hope we can help him balance it back to
Yes.
a productive and constructive
Yes.
direction.
I think he has a good track record. He is stronger as a person, and he has a very strong election mandate. So he is coming from a strong point, so I think he could be more independent in foreign policy than other
Yeah.
candidates.
Well, maybe you could also
Yes.
write in your column and
yes.
in my programs, I will
Philippine
remind
Star,
him
yes.
that he won he was successful in his candidacy because people heard him
Yes.
talk about the bilateral
Yes.
negotiations with China.
And people know that he is more open to friendships with all countries.
That's right, that's right. And people remember that he said, I will cut off relations with Australia and US and so on.
Actually, he said, let them cut off the relations.
Is that what he said?
Because the media is a little bit unfair.
Uh-huh.
Some of the media are unfair to him. He did not said he will cut. He said,
Okay.
let them be the one to cut.
Okay, good.
And
Good
he
to
said,
clarify that.
he
Yeah.
said they should not interfere in Philippine local elections. I think he was very correct. And I
Okay.
think he has some idea that
Okay, well, in that relation, as I said, in the
Yes.
next month or so, there will be a campaign to
Yes.
besmirch China in relation to the arbitration tribunal, and this is the latest from the South China Morning Post again.
Yes.
China brands international court hearings, passing judgment on its claim in South China Sea, an orchestrated show. This is written by Xi Jiangtao of the SCMP. Su Hong, the Director General of the Treaty and Law Department of China's Foreign Ministry, lashed out at the Philippines and the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague, which is considering the ruling, its ruling after Manila brought the highly charged against China, highly charged case against China. No? From the legal perspective, Mr. Su Hong said, the case is a normal legal proceeding between China and the Philippines, no matter what the different opinions held by the two countries. But what we are seeing now is a clearly staged show with not only leading and supporting actors, but also those disguising themselves as the audience, echoing and colluding with each other. Well, there's a media campaign on this.
Yes.
And I wonder if you have that picture of the American lawyers representing the Philippine case in the tribunal, which is intriguing.
I think what your show is saying, this is very important. This is actually not the Philippines and China dispute. I think this is the really
U.S.,
the
China.
US and China, and they're just using us as a pawn to quarrel with our Asian neighbor. I think we should not forget that for more than 1,000 years, the Philippines and China have been friends.
Yes.
There had been no problems at all, except when other countries come here.
Yes. And I'll continue with this report. No, Mr. Hong, the Foreign Ministry official, said, quote, "Do you actually still believe it is purely an international law matter, or everything that's happening is just a coincidence? And no matter how loud those noises are, the views expressed by a small clique of Western nations cannot represent the entirety of the international community." That's a picture where the American lawyers represent the Philippine case, and the Filipinos play second fiddle to the Americans.
I'm very disturbed that I hope that we don't look at this dispute only from this case. Whether this case prospers or not, I hope we should look beyond this for a better actor relationship between the Philippines and China.
Yes.
I'm very concerned that some of our politicians are very legalistic and narrow perspective. They might think that this case is the be-all and all of Philippine-China relationship, which should not be.
Yes. Well, it
We
is
should
very
not
clear.
just poison it.
It is very clear there are many elements trying to tie down the hands of the government
Yes, yes,
on this issue.
yes.
You will recall just about last week,
yes.
former Justice Secretary and the Solicitor General Estelito Mendoza, we reported it here in our earlier editions, where Estelito Mendoza suggested that the Philippines suspend its case in the arbitration court to give the new administration a free hand in establishing a new foreign policy direction with regards to this issue.
That is a very wise move.
Coming from nonagenarian, is that the way
Yes,
to put
yes,
it?
yes, yes.
Over 90 years old, very wise,
Yes.
has been with several Philippine governments.
One of the most brilliant
I think
lawyers.
he knows what he was talking about. Yet there are forces and elements that want to tie down the hands of the new and incoming administration.
So I think I agree with you 100% that we should think beyond this case. We should not concentrate all our energies and all the media on this case alone, because whatever decision this tribunal decides on will not make the relationship between the two countries better, I think.
Yes, well, a lot depends now on the direction that the incoming administration will
Yes.
take, and therefore we're making every effort to inform the Filipino people of the true facts. How many countries are agreeing with the approach that China has taken, that really conforms to international practice, and that we are not blind-sided by this anti-neighborliness propaganda.
I agree with you. My real concern is the certain Western countries would like to focus everything on this case, and then if the decision comes out in favor of the Philippines, we might win a legal battle in that tribunal, but we will lose the friendship of our neighbor of 1,000 years. And what will happen next? Will that make our economy better? Will that make our relationship with the world's second largest economy normal, or will it add problems to the relationship? I think we should not let the Western countries dictate what we want for our future.
That's right, definitely. And again, information is very
Yes, yes.
important. The public should know, and that is why we're showing the people-to-people relationship is fantastic.
It's getting better.
And there will be more jobs, more business with China. 1.3 billion market
Yes.
of a nation that is becoming richer and richer.
Not only 1.3 billion market, the rich portion of that market is already as big or bigger than the entire U.S. population.
The middle class.
The well-off middle class is already the size of the entire U.S. population.
That's right, that's right.
And Europe.
That's right, yeah.
And I think if we miss out on this huge economic opportunity, all our ASEAN neighbors and competitors will be the happiest.
Yeah. For example, Vietnam's largest trading partner is
China.
China.
South Korea also. South Korea is a military ally of the U.S. and they even fought a war with China because of the North Korean
That's
war.
right, yeah.
But the relationship of South Korea and China now is much, much better than at any time in history.
That's right, that's right.
We should just copy South Korea and the other smart Asian neighbors.
Well, in fact, recently there was also a meeting between amongst China, Brunei, Cambodia, and Laos. You read about
Yes,
that?
yes.
We reported it in our earlier editions.
Mekong River Delta.
Yeah,
something.
there was a Lanchiang
Yes, yes.
Mekong River summit
Yes.
to talk about the water of the Mekong and so on. But that's another conference. No?
You
There
should
was one.
you should help promote in the Philippines. We should plug into that Silk Road
That's right.
grand plan.
That's right. Yeah.
We should.
In our episode last week, we discussed the coincidence
Yes.
or convergence of the American concept of the LaRouche movement, the land bridge concept, which is actually the Silk Road, land and maritime Silk Road concept of President Xi Jinping, which aims to make the whole world prosperous through trade, win-win business. So in the next concluding minutes of ours, Wilson, what can we do aside from this information campaign we have to show that life is normal between the Chinese people and the Filipino people?
Yes.
We also are trying to bring the complete story to our people. What else can we do?
I suggest that people like you should promote more exchanges, more visits from both countries, more scholars.
My capacity is limited. I cannot finance airplanes, fares, and so on.
We will get volunteers.
I think the Chinese embassy is doing a lot of work to bring more Filipinos there.
And I heard a lot of companies, a lot of Philippine and China companies are also doing this.
And you've been to China lately with so many delegations. Last year you were with us.
1 or 2 years ago, I was also invited by a Filipino company, Conception Industries. They got the Midea
franchise. They got the Midea franchise.
They invited an entire media delegation. So we should have more exchanges. And every time there are visits, there will be more understanding.
I just remembered. I brought this always to try to encourage people to read the Windows to China. This is featured in Philippine Star every Tuesday.
Yes.
And there's another one. This is the Many Faces of China. This comes out Bulletin. In your competitor.
Yes.
Manila Daily Bulletin every Tuesday also. So these efforts help the understanding between the two nations and the two countries.
And what you just showed this early part of the show, music, art, food, those are the best ways to exchange.
Okay, when can we invite you to sing a Chinese song here?
I should study first.
Okay.
I don't want to create a typhoon.
In the next few weeks, we will have musicians, young musicians from the UP Asian Ensemble. They play Asian instruments. In a previous edition, we had some Filipina Chinese play the erhu, and very soon we'll have a contest on our music in our introduction. Guess what tunes they are.
I will also introduce you to the official of Huawei who hosted us there. Do you know what they're doing in the Philippines? They're giving support to local universities to encourage more engineering students.
Maybe you can introduce me to those who are doing this, and maybe we can interview them here. But we have run out of time. So come back and join us next Sunday on this GNN and Sky Cable station, but also on YouTube. So with that, maraming salamat. Thank you very much.
You should have this show 2-3 times a week.
We will. Okay.